Hi everyone, Leah here from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another helpful beading video for you. Before I get started, just a quick reminder to go check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and notification bell and you'll always know when we're posting new content. Today's project is a little earring design that's going to show you how to make some pretty basic fringes. And one of the reasons I like this earring design is, first of all, it's sweet, it's simple. It's the kind of earring that you can make to go with any project where you don't know what style of earring to make with it. So a lot of us who do pretty intricate bead woven necklaces, sometimes you want that earring style to go with it. So what you can do is simply pull out some of the components from the necklace style and make yourself something that's just a little bit more than a drop earring on a head pin. You can do just a little bit more, and you're also doing a little bead weaving as well. So the beads that I'm using here, these are all components from Eureka's newest collection for October called Moonshadow. Every single one of these components, even down to the really cool gunmetal ear wires, are from that collection. So if you get that collection, you'll be able to make these earrings plus a whole slew of other things. And one of the reasons I like this collection for October is because a lot of times people think for October orange or red or those sorts of fall colors, but I love purple for the fall, and I love purple especially for October, for Halloween. I think it's just such a beautiful color for this time of year in so many different shades. This is a very sort of warm purple palette. And I just find the color sort of very velvety, hence the earring name. To give you a close-up of the components that we have here, I'm going to be using some amethyst-colored Swarovski briolets. We have just a small amount of Miyuki size 11 seed beads, and this is exactly what I need for the other half of the earrings. As you can see, it doesn't take much, so you're going to have a lot of beads left over, which is great because that's sort of the point of these collections, is that you can get a lot of different projects out of them. So I wanted to bring you some of those ideas. For the rest of the earring, we have the other 6mm druck. We have some really cool size 11 demi beads by Toho. If you've never used the demis, I really love these because when you're maybe a little sick of using a regular standard 11, so many times you can replace it with a demi, which is like an even more flat donut, and you get just a different look, and you can really work them into a lot of your projects. And then I have, of course, that other gunmetal ear wire. Now, I also wanted to give you a close-up of some of these beads in larger quantities because I wanted you to see how beautiful some of those colors are. So these are one of the polychrome drucks. And if you've ever seen any of the polychrome finishes, I'm the biggest fan of them because they tend to have about two different colors sort of shimmered together. This one, the majority is purple, but there's a very subtle shimmery green in there. So this earring, at first glance, may look like it's just purple, but there's a lot of other little tiny tones in it, which is, again, why I like the dimension you get with these polychrome drucks. One of the other ones we have, of course, are those demis, which come in so many beautiful colors, and this is a lovely one. If you look closely, we have that sort of indigo, purpley blue, but then there's also some metallic maroon in there, and there's a lot of a beautiful sort of peacock green. So again, that really will flash in this earring design nicely. And then the other one I wanted to show you a close-up of was a larger amount of that Miyuki size 11 seed bead, and this is a beautiful deep warm purple, but there's some beautiful flashes of that same sort of peacock green, but also this sort of limey greeny gold. And I really hope I'm picking this up in the video because I think you're really going to love the colors that we've put together for you for that Moonshadow collection. Okay, so besides the beads, I have some 6-pound fireline here on a size 12 needle, and I have only about a little over a foot. That's going to make my earring with plenty left over. So to get started, I'm going to just dump out my beads here, and I'm going to start by picking up 7 of my little Miyuki size 11 seed beads. Now I'm going to bring them to the end of my thread and leave a tail that's at least a few inches long. That way you can stick a needle on it later just to weave it into the earring. And we're going to go back to that very first seed bead that we picked up, and we're going to go back through that. And so we're going to get a little beaded loop, just like this. This is eventually where our ear wire is going to go, but as you can see, it looks a little different than the loop that I have in the finished earring. And that's because I'm going to show you how you can incorporate some demis after the fact to make that loop a little more interesting. So temporarily to keep this loop together, and not as a means to hold the earring together, but simply just for making it a little easier as we're working on it, I am going to take my tail and my working thread and I'm going to tie them in a square knot. If you've never done a square knot, it's like a double knot, but that second knot is backwards. So it's like right over left and then left over right. And this is just temporarily to keep our beads from really loosening up and going anywhere. Next, I'm going to pick up my druck and another size 11 seed bead. Now that is, so here's our druck, and then we have a single seed bead underneath it that's sort of centered, and both of our fringes are going to come off of that single seed bead. Now we'll do our shorter fringe first. So that's going to mean now another 3 size 11s, and then our brielet is going to be sort of capped on either side by groups of 5 demis. So I'm going to pick up 5 demis. I'm going to go through my first brielet here. I'm going to pick up 5 more demis. Okay, you want to sort of move them away a little bit so you make sure you don't mix up the demis with the seed beads on top there. But you can see, I love how they look. They're just like a little bit more of a flattened size 11 seed bead. So they add such a neat look where you're maybe wanting to have a little bit more interest above and beyond a regular size 11. So now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go back up those 3 size 11s that I had for my fringe, and then I'm also going to go up through that first size 11 that's going to be the one that both fringes are working off of, and then my druck. And if my needle happens to pop through that center seed bead at the top, that's great too. Otherwise you would just pull through and then go through that next bead, but oftentimes that you can get them to all go through together. Okay. Now, we're going to use some demis to make our loop look a little more interesting. And I'm doing that for 2 reasons. One, because I think it adds a lovely look to the earring, but also because it's going to make that loop a little bigger, which means it's just going to sit more nicely on that ear wire. It's not going to look too crammed in there. Now, to just mention, oftentimes I see a lot of beaders and they make this beaded loop here just super teeny tiny and super plain and ordinary. But I do want to point out that that loop can be just as lovely as the rest of the earring. And if anything, it's not just functional, meaning it's literally holding your earring to your ear wire. But it is also decorative. It is part of your design. So there's no reason we can't make that just as lovely. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to pick a side. So we have sort of two little groups of 3 seed beads, 3 on each side. We're going to pick one of those sides and we're going to go up the first bead there. Just like that. Now, if you want to set aside, you're going to be using 5 demis for this step. So we're going to pick up a demi, and we're going to go right through the very next 11. So it's not like peyote. It's not like where you're skipping over a bead. You're just going to go right through the next bead. And as you can see, it sort of makes it pop out to the side a little bit. We're going to pick up another demi, and we're going to go through the next bead. It just gives it such a neat little look. It's a little bit extra beyond a regular beaded loop. I'm going to do that again. Pick up another demi, go through the next 11, pick up another demi, go through the next 11. We're going to pick up one last demi and go through one more bead after that. And then if your needle wants to angle right down, you can go right through that center seed bead as well, the one that's centered right on top of the druck, and then go right through your druck as well. And if your seed bead also happens to pop out of the centered seed bead on the other side of the druck, then that's great. If not, just pull through and then go through that bead as well. So yeah, we have such a neat little beaded loop. It has a lot more interest to it, and it really is just as prominent in the design as the rest of the earring. So you want to make sure that you don't neglect that. So we're coming out of that seed bead that's centered underneath of our druck, and now we're going to do the other fringe that's there. So for that, we're going to pick up a total of 9 of these 11s here. And now we're going to make the same little cap above our other briolet, which is doing 5 demis, going through our briolet, and then the other 5 demis. Now we're going to move those demis and the briolets out of the way. We're going to go back up through all of these seed beads as well as the centered one right at the top, and then go up your druck. And if you happen to pop through that centered bead at the top of the druck, that's totally fine, because you were going to want to do that anyway. All right, so now we can actually start to weave out our thread. So we're going to do that right up here in that beaded loop. That's the easiest way to do it. So what we're going to do is bring your needle behind where your working thread is, going through those beads. Pull almost all the way. We get this little beaded loop. We're going to go through that loop there and slowly pull that knot down so it closes between the 2 beads that your working thread was coming out of. We're going to go through another couple of beads, whatever your needle kind of happens to pop through. So if I go through the next 11 and a demi, that works out just fine. We're going to do that again. Just stick your needle through your little beaded loop there. Pull almost all the way, get your little loop of thread, and then just pull down carefully so that way you can make sure that your thread is closing that knot right where it's supposed to be. I'm going to end up doing one more knot as well. I tend to like to do at least 3 knots for this sort of an earring style. If it was a bigger piece, like a bigger necklace or bracelet or something really heavy, I would do a few more than that, but I think 3 is going to be just fine for this. And you never want to cut right after the knot. You always want to weave just a little bit more and then cut after you've woven just a little bit more, just so you're not cutting right next to that knot. Okay, so that one is going to get snipped off. And then what you can do is just stick a needle onto that tail that you left from the beginning. And you're just going to weave this one in a little bit as well, just right back up into that loop. Just head right on up. Another couple of beads. And then we can snip off that thread. Now, very last step, of course, is to attach our ear wire. We're going to use some chain nose pliers for this. And this particular style of ear wire has the opening on the back side here. So I'm just going to go to that loop. I'm going to swivel it open to the side, just like this. Now, one thing to remember, with earrings, you want earrings to always be a mirror image of each other. So in this case, if this is one of the earrings and that shorter one here is on the outside, I want to make sure that the shorter one here is on the opposite outside, just like that. And that's how all earrings really should be. You would never really want to see an earring like that. They should always be mirror image. So just make sure that as you're sticking your earring onto your ear wire, that's how it ends up being situated. Oops, I gotta open this up just a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, so we have this super cute pair of simple fringe earrings, and something to keep in mind is if you decide to get one of the Moonshadow palettes, you can make any more fringes that you'd like coming off the bottom. So you don't have to do just 2. You can make as many as you'd like. However, I do like to change up the length of them. I think that adds a lot of nice dimension. But this is, like I said, a great little super lightweight, versatile earring. You can make them up in about 15, 20 minutes tops. And it's a nice little way to show off those beautiful purple beads for October, or for all of autumn. All right, folks, thanks for watching. Make sure to visit us on over at EurekaCrystalBeads.com for everything I used in this video. And if you want to go check out that Moonshadow palette, it's fantastic. Yeah, so hope to see you guys next time. Bye.